Shayla with My Cake Studio, and today we're going to get creepy and spooky with a graveyard cake kit. So if the sticker on your My Make Studio box right here does not say graveyard cake kit, no worries, you're probably looking for another video, so go ahead and stop this one and head back to our YouTube channel and find the video that is titled the same as whatever little sticker is here on your box. But if it does say graveyard cake kit, welcome. It's going to be a super awesome spooky time. There are a couple things we've got to go over though before we actually start decorating our cakes. So number one is we need our cakes baked. So inside your box, you have a box of cake mix, and on the back of that box, there are directions on how to bake your cake, so just follow those along. And then if you're like, I don't think I have a square cake pan, not to worry. Inside your box is a cake pan, so just grease this up however you like. You can use some Pam, or some butter, or some cake grease, just whatever is your speed. Go ahead and grease your pan, and then make your cake mix, put it in, and bake it and all that jazz. And then I recommend that it be a little bit chilled, so like room temperature or put in the fridge for a little bit. We're not going to do too much smoothing around or any carving today, so it doesn't need to be super cold, but cakes are generally easier to decorate when they're cold. And then I personally like to leave mine in the pan for this, but if you would like, after it's baked and it's chilled, you can pop it out and put it on a plate instead, but I will be doing mine inside my pan. And then aside from that, you need a pair of handy dandy scissors and then some kind of towel. It can be a hand towel, a kitchen towel, or even a paper towel. Just something to put our open icings on and to wipe our fingers off as we go. And then lastly, go ahead and wash your hands super duper good. Pull everything out of your box and we're ready to get going. So if you haven't baked your cake yet, go ahead, pause me. I'll be here when you're done. But if you're all set, let's get to it. I'm going to set up my area and we're going to make a graveyard. I love spooky season. This is the best. All right, so I have my cake right here. I went with vanilla today, but if you got chocolate, it really helps with the dirt effect of the cake. But I was just feeling like eating vanilla, so I got vanilla. Either way is totally cool. And we're gonna start by taking our chocolate icing and we're gonna remove this part. So just go ahead and set this aside and then pull off this little seal. And yes. So inside your My Make Studio box, there was also a spatula. I'm super excited I got green because like I love neon green. I just like all the colors. But I'm happy I got green today. We've got a couple different colors floating out there. So what color did you get? Like, ugh. But anyway, okay. Handy dandy spatula. Now if you have a metal cake spatula that you would rather use to decorate, that is totally okay. Whatever you're more comfortable with. If you don't have one of those, I'm going to show you how to do it with the one that came in the box. And we're going to take our chocolate icing, and I like to just make a bunch of like bloops and blops and swoopy doops and swirly doos and ziggy zaggies. Just random like this. Now I still have some icing in here, but I'm going to see how far this gets me before I add any more. So all we're going to do is completely cover the top of our cake in this icing. Now when I smooth things out, I like to go side to side, but I add a little rock in there. So instead of it being like a windshield wiper blade, it's more like the beginning of a pirate ship ride. So I rock a little bit up and rock a little bit back. You can also treat your cake and your icing like it's a very nervous cat. Like you've been trying to get its attention all day. It's finally jumped in your lap. You gotta pet that cat. You gotta pet that cat. You can very lightly pet your icing in the directions you want it to go, because we're going to be adding grass and pumpkins and ghosts and gravestones. So this does not have to be super duper smooth. This is just like a base layer for everything else. So I'm just going to smear it around. And as I'm smearing, I should be able to see if there are spots that I need to add more icing to. And I can already tell you that I'm going to need to add a little bit more icing here, but I'm going to go ahead and just smooth this. And it does not have to be super duper smooth. In fact, if you want to leave it a little rugged, that's totally okay. We're just trying to cover up the whole top of our cake with the icing. All right, I'm going to set that down, chocolate. Now when your icing gets hard to squeeze out, treat this like a tube of toothpaste. Just squish it and then fold it down. And all of your chocolate icing is for this part of the cake. I'm just going to go ahead and put the last of it on here. And then fold it. Yes. I need a graveyard. And go back to smoothing. Yes. And then I really like to get my edges over here. Yes, I'm satisfied with that. And then I'm just going to put some grass here. But yes. Alrighty. So now I think we should go ahead and play with our fondant. So if you have any chocolate icing on your hands whatsoever, go ahead and go wash them and then dry them off really well. The reason you want to dry them off really well is that when you're working with fondant, water makes fondant sticky. So it'll still work, but it'll stick to your hands and it'll feel kind of weird. And it's just like these weird little like trindles. And just to avoid that, your fondant, it will work if your hands are wet, but it is easier if your hands are dry and you're not going to get that weird texture feeling. So go ahead and wash your hands super well, dry them off, and then we are going to go to what I call the little bag of fun, and we're going to take out our white fondant. Yes, this has all the best stuff in it. So when I open my fondant, I like to just cut this part, take my scissors, slide it down, cut it some more, and then just unwrap it like it's a candy bar. If you rip yours off in chunks, it is totally okay. I'm going to be going over how much we need, but this just helps me remember how much I need by doing it this way. And I want to use half of this for ghosts and half of this for gravestones. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it right in half. So what I do for my ghosts is I just rip off chunks. And I like my ghosts to be different sizes. If you want, you can cut even little cubes of them. But I'm just going to rip off random chunks and see how far that gets me. I got 5. And then each of these, I'm going to mush them with my hands just a little bit. It should be nice and soft, but I'm going to play with it with my hands and then roll each of these into a ball. Whenever we are shaping anything with fondant, I think it is easiest to start from a ball. Ta-da! So there are lots of different ways you can make ghosts. And if you would like to look up some pictures to get some ideas, go for it. It's your cake. I want you to be happy with it. But one simple way that I like to do it is I leave them in a ball. And then I'm going to tube it just a little. Just a little. And then I'm not going to mosquito squash it, but I'm going to give it a little boop. Boop. And then I take my pincher fingers, but you can use your scissors instead if you'd like, especially if you have long fingernails. Using your scissors might be easier for this part. But I pinch a spot. And then I'm going to pinch another spot. And then I was like this. I'm going to turn my fingers and pinch my pinch. And then I'm just going to, so I went like this. I'm going to go this way and just wiggle it out a bit. If you would like, you can leave them like this, or you can take your pincher fingers again and pinch on the bottom in a little circle, like it looks like, ooh, like floaty. I hope that makes sense. Yes. Just gives them a little bit of a floaty skirt. So I'm going to set this one aside, and then I'm just going to make different ones like that. I kind of like when my ghosts are little cattywampus and their hands aren't quite even. Like there's one like, or there's one like, I like to have them going in different directions, so that's what I'm going to do. But the general way of how I make them is the same. I pinch my pinches, and then I just move my arms around differently, and I think I'm going to give them all this ghostly skirt today because I'm digging the vibe of that. Got a little family of ghosts happening. It's so cute. Okay, more ghosts. If you want, you can even point like one of your ghost heads, so I'll do one that way. I'm gonna give one with no arms. He's gonna have no arms. So for no arm ghosts, I'm going to make the face bigger. So I'm pinching it, and then I'm going to pinch the top, and I like to give it a little curve, and then I'm gonna do the skirt. Yeah. I like all the ghosts. This one's going to be like, or it could be like, yay! It just depends on what kind of face you put on there, which we will get to that. Oh yeah, this one's very frustrated. It's got hands on the hips. It's like, why are you in my graveyard? I'll give him a little, I'll tilt the body. So I'm pushing the body and I'm just going boop. Just a little bit to give it a, what are you doing? Kind of a swing. So I'm going to set my ghosts aside for now. And then we're going to take our black icing and we're going to take this part off. But this time, this little circle that's in here, we're going to pop that out. Ooh, because this is now the coupler ring that's going to attach tips to our icing. And we're going to go ahead and get that set up. So remove the seal. And then inside your little bag of fun, you have a container, like a little baggie of these plastic looking things. These are our icing tips, and there is a booklet inside your box too that has little pictures of what each tip does. I'm mainly going to be using the round tip and the grass tip today. So if you would like to see more of what you could do with the star tip and the leaf tip, I recommend looking at that little booklet. We might throw a couple spooky leaves in there, we'll see. But the round tip is the one that is just a little circle. So I'm going to take that one out. If I can get it out, it doesn't want to come out. So it's this one right here. I'm going to put it on my icing, take the lid, and twist it on over it. Now sometimes the icing tips want to play tag, and you might have to move it around a little bit, apply a little bit of pressure, or you can try a different ring if you want. They will go on there, but sometimes they have a mind of their own. And it doesn't need to be on there so tight you can't take it off. It just needs to be on there tight enough that you can do this, and it doesn't go flying across the room. So, I'm going to take my other chunk of fondant, the one that is not the ghosts, and I like to take my thumb and put a little indent in it. And then I'm going to take some black icing and I'm just going to squeeze some in there, about this much to start. You guys, this is going to feel really weird, but we are making this a gray color for our gravestones. So I'm just going to mush it up. So if you just go squeeze, squeeze, nothing really happens. You need to actually mush it and twist it and just really mix it up. You'll get this brief, like, marbly tie-dye thing going on if you don't mix it up all the way. And if you like that look, you can totally use it for your gravestones. I actually think that I'm gonna get this a little bit more marbled, rip some off so I have like 1 or 2 marbly gravestones, and then go ahead and just mix the rest of it up until it's all a solid gray color. Yeah, I'm gonna rip. And then this one. All right. So I'm pretty happy with this shade of gray, but if you want it darker, just add more icing to it and then mix it up again. And then similar to my ghosts, I like my gravestones to be different styles and sizes. So I just rip off random chunks and see how far I get. I went ahead and ripped off 2 when they were in that marbly state because I'm digging those vibes today. And then the rest of this, I'm just gonna see what happens. I think I'll make a big one. And then a little one. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got 6 plus these other 2 over here, so I technically got 8. And then I'm going to roll all of them into a ball. And we're going to talk about different gravestone ideas. Alright. So I've got 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and give it a boop. Boop. And then all I'm going to do is push the end of this onto a hard surface. to make a rounded gravestone. Ta-da! Another way you can do it is you can squish it, and then you can take your scissors and cut a little rectangle with it. If you don't want one sitting straight up, you can lay it flat, or you can have the square one sitting up too, or the rectangle. I'm going to drag it out just a little bit, just very, there we go. And then flatten my sides. Perfect. I don't know if I'll have it standing up or not. We'll see. And then with this big one, I'm going to boop it, push down my sides. So I booped it, and then I went, and then I'm going to take my fingers, which again, if you would like, you can use your scissors, just cut a little indentation instead. But I'm going to use my fingers to pinch the ends, and then I am going to lightly them. Just give them a little wiggle, and then push this finger in and curve. So, finger in and curve. And then I'm going to flatten the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and point this. So I'm going to pinch this and then give it a point for the spooky gravestone. And then I'm just going to make some more and see what happens. And I'm going to take the little pieces from cutting out that rectangle and do something else with those. I want a taller gravestone. You could also roll a tube snake and then take your finger and flatten that tube snake, and then still flatten an end of it if you want one standing up, taller than the other ones. And I'm going to make this one a square. Yeah. And then, ooh, I want a tall, pointy one now. It's just whatever feels right to you. You can even look up some pictures if you'd like to help get some inspiration. I just go with the flow. Perfect. And you don't have to do this, but I wanted to talk about it. So I have this little bit of fondant left from when I cut that square. Ooh, and I have a little bit more here, so I'm just going to whoosh them up. That's the best thing about fondant. If you mess up, just ball it back together. So I'm actually going to rip off one little piece, another little piece, and then leave this one big. So I have these 3 pieces. Actually, I lied. I'm going to rip off one more teeny tiny piece. So this is what I've got in my hand. I'm going to take the bigger one and I'm going to roll it and then tube snake it just a little bit. Set it down. I'm going to take the other one and roll it and put it on top. And I'm not using the teeny tiny one yet. So these are the other 2 pieces. And then with this one, I am going to tube snake it all the way and put it on the bottom. So I'm making a cat statue right now. You could also make a gargoyle if you wanted, which is a really cool idea. And then these ones, I ripped my tiny one in half, and I'm going to squish and then just stick them on to the top of the little head. And I'm going to wrap that tail around it. And we have a little cat. Which if you want, you can rip off some from the back and then just smoosh it down. And you can make little feet or a little nose to go on there, which I actually think I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a very small one to put on the front. And if you're having trouble getting your fondant to stick to fondant, just get it a little bit wet. Just a little bit, like half a drop. And there we go. It's just an option. I like options. So now that we have our ghosts in our graveyard, we can start arranging them on our cake before we start adding anything else and doing the little design details. So pick a front of your cake, look at it, see what feels like the front. For me, this feels like the front, facing me. And then just stick your ghosts and gravestones wherever you think they feel good. I like to have mine kind of sporadic. Like it's a very large graveyard, but you can have them, and it's like really old, but you could have them in nice little orderly rows. You could have like graveyard, like gravestones, ghosts, pumpkins, worms. You can arrange them however feels right to you, but I'm gonna just kind of like, no rhyme or reason, just stick them on there and see what I like. Okay, so I'm so glad I did this marbly one too. And then I'm going to lay this one like flat. Stick this one over here, stick this one over here. Stick that one in the middle. And then I'm going to put my little cat statue right there. And then it's the same thing with your ghosts. Just add them wherever you'd like. So I want this guy in the front. Like, what are you doing? I'm gonna have this one in the back, like, oh hey, didn't see you there. Hi. I'm gonna have my little one right here, like, ooh, hello. Have this one here, and have my other ghost. Like this. I'm going to have them over here actually. And I'm trying not to cover up my gravestones so it's easier for me to pipe details on them, but it's totally up to you. So I've got mine spread out like this so far. And now it is time to add little details before we start adding our candies and our grass. So with that round tip already on your icing, this tip is really good for drawing. So all you're gonna do is just draw a face, whatever kind of face you want on your ghosts, and then you can write whatever you want on your gravestones. Now we don't have a lot of room to work with, so I recommend names, years, or RIP, but you're welcome to. You have enough black icing that if you wanna try it out on that paper towel to see how much you can write on a little space first, go for it. If you're also nervous about piping on to your fondant pieces, you can get a toothpick and lightly trace what you want to put on them first with the toothpick, and then follow back along with your black icing. And for the ghost faces, I like when one eye is bigger than the other one, so I just kind of let it happen and go with whatever vibe I feel like I gave all of my ghosts for their faces, but I'm definitely going to have a lot of ghosts, like, what are you doing? But it's totally up to you what you want to write on there. And then it is easier for me to write on them this way, but if you need to pick them up and write on them, just remember to hold them from the side when you go to place them back on. That way you don't mess up your pretty lettering when you put them back on your cake. So I will be back in just a second. Yes. And then if your ghosts or your graveyards, if they have any little points, because that round tip likes to leave little like Hershey Kiss style points, don't worry about them. If you let this sit for about 2 minutes, your icing will have stiffened up enough from the air that you can go back and lightly tippy tap them, and those little points will go away. I've got some on my ghosts that I'm not totally in love with right now, but it's all right. I'm just gonna let them sit for a bit, and at the end I can go back and tap those down, and they will no longer be pointed, and they'll be nice and round. So next it's time for everything else. So I'm just gonna dump this out. So we have Oreo crumbles, pumpkins, and gummy worms. But before we do that, I'm actually gonna start with some grass. So I'm gonna take this off, do the same thing we did with the black icing, but now I'm going to put the grass tip on there, which is the one that has all the little holes in it and looks like a thimble. It's my favorite. It really is my favorite. So it's this one right here. Twist it on. So when you're making grass, you've got some options. One, you do not want to push it right onto your cake and squeeze because nothing happens. You need to hold it a little above, like you're really trying to irritate somebody, like, I'm not touching you, but you're like almost touching them. That's what we're doing with our icing and our cake today. So I'm going to hold it a little above, and then I'm going to squeeze in the same spot. 1, 2, 3, stop and lift straight up to get some nice little tufts of grass. I don't know why with this tip in particular, but something that I have noticed with this one is a lot of people have the tendency to dip down before they lift up, and if you do that, it completely destroys the shape. So leave it in the same spot, stop squeezing, and then lift straight up. Try not to dip down. Another way you can do it is you can hold it a little above and keep squeezing while you lift up. It'll naturally flop. So I'm going to give it a build-up of like 1, 2. There we go. And I got some floppy ones. So again. Or you can go spaghetti style and just move it around like that. However you like. There is no right or wrong place to put grass. I like to put grass on here because I feel like it gives a little more life to the cake and breathes some color into it. So I am going to just put tufts anywhere I can see my cake. And I'm also going to put some little tufts by my gravestone, like that's overgrown. It's a very old graveyard. Oh, I have a stone that I didn't even do. Well, I gotta fix that first. And then I'm gonna put grass on there. So I'll be right back. I don't think you can tell what this says, but it says, oh no. I should put Bob. Dang it. Oh well. Another thing you can do with your grass, if you have a gravestone that's kind of leaning, put a couple of tufts of grass behind it and it will help hold it in place on your cake. All right, back to adding random grass. I lied, I'm back again, hi! So all of this green is for our grass, but I do recommend saving about this much, so like 1/4 of it, for when we add our pumpkins and our gummy worms, in case you want to put grass around them too, so it looks like, especially with the gummy worms, like they are coming out of the ground and not just on top of it. So I recommend saving about 1/4 of it, but all of this is for grass. So I think I just used 1/4 of my green, but I'm happy with what's on there right now, and I want to stop and add everything else before I add any more to it. But this is what I've got going on. I did some floppy ones by the big gravestone, so it actually like kind of went on it a little bit. It's so cool. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna add my pumpkins. And you can leave your pumpkins as pumpkins, or you can also take that round tip and add little faces to your pumpkins to make them jack-o'-lanterns instead. I'm definitely going to do that to at least one of them because I love jack-o'-lanterns. But I'm just going to place my pumpkins first and go from there. And it's wherever you think they look cool. I'm going to put this one back here. And this one up here. Oh, well, you know what? Since we have our pumpkins, I'm going to go ahead and show you the leaf tip. So the leaf tip is the one inside your baggie that looks like a V or an alligator mouth. I don't know why I have such a hard time getting these out today, but I do. There we go. So this one. And I am just going to add a leaf to a pumpkin so you can see what it does. You could also put this on your black icing to make some dead leaves in your graveyard if you wanted. Oh, I'm going to come to this one, and I'm going to hold it just like it's an alligator mouth. And it's just going to throw up icing all over my pumpkin. I'm not going to move this hand until the end. So I'm sideways. You can go straight up and down with it if you want, but it's the same thing. Do not move your hand until the end and stop squeezing before you move. That way you get nice fine points to your leaves. All right, so I'm going to squeeze 1, 2, 3, stop and pull. I'm going to add one more standing up. And I'm just going to put that one in the back. So that is a way you could do some leaves if you wanted. Again, if you want to add some creepy dead leaves, which I'm going to wait until I get everything on there to decide if I want to do that, but it would look really cool with the black icing. I am definitely going to add some jack-o'-lantern faces now to at least my front 2 pumpkins. Yeah. That's awesome. So now I'm going to take my gummy worms, and you can just stick them into your cake wherever you want, or if you're like, I don't like gummy worms on the design, well, you've got gummy worms you can eat now, which they smell so good. I'm a big fan of the red and green ones. But you can just stick them on, or what I like to do is I like to make it look like they're coming out of the ground. So I actually cut my gummy worms in half like this, and I will stick one end straight down, and then you can place the other one wherever you want. So I like to have my gummy worms like that throughout. I might have one that's normal, but I'm going to go ahead and cut up all my gummy worms and then show you what it looks like. Ta-da! Yes. And then there are a few of my gummy worms where I feel like they look like they're just sitting on top of my chocolate icing, like this one over here in particular. So then I take my green icing, I put the grass tip back on there. And I'm just going to put a little tuft on top of it where it meets the icing, so that way it looks like it's coming from underneath the ground. And I'm going to go ahead and add a bit more grass to my cake. You don't have to use all of the green icing if you don't want to. If you do want to use it all in there, go for it. I'm probably not going to use all of it today because I'm pretty happy with the amount of grass I've got. I'm just going to add a little bit more. But if you want to use all of it, you can. But I didn't want you to feel like you had to use all of it if you didn't want to. I'm so excited to see what graveyards you guys make. Like, I'm so excited. I love Halloween. Halloween is the whole month of October in my world. So, the last step will be our Oreo crumbles. But I have decided I am, in fact, going to make at least one creepy leaf patch. So I'm actually going to squeeze down a bunch of green over here and put my flower on top of it because it won't show up as well if it is on the dirt or the brown icing. Like, I mean, I didn't give you dirt for your cake, but it's our fake dirt today. And then I'm just going to squeeze this out on my towel until it all comes out as the black icing. You can rinse it out in the sink if you would rather do that, though. And I'm just going to do the same thing I did with my pumpkin, but I'm going to do it in a circle. So 1, 2, 3, stop and pull. 1, 2, 3, stop and pull. 1, 2, 3, stop and pull. In a circle. Or you can do a 1, 2. Oh, yeah. Ta-da! So I think I'm going to add like 2 more of those, and then we will do the last part of the cake. So I've got a couple tufts of grass I can put some on. Awesome. So the last thing is you have Oreo crumbles. You can leave them like this, or if you would like to crush them up more, you can get a rolling pin and just smush them down some more. I'm going them a little bit more crushed, so I'm also just going to mush them and see how far that gets me. whoop, and it opened up on me. So if it opens up on you, sorry. But usually you take your scissors and you cut it open. I just applied a lot of pressure there. But hey, I caught one. This is so good. Okay. I'll go back to crushing my Oreos here. And I'm just going to sprinkle this in random parts of my cake so it looks more like crumbly dirt. The reason I recommend doing this as the final step is our icing likes to lift up from these and not stick as well, and it's a little bit harder if you're new to decorating to get those tufts to stick on top of Oreo crumbles or graham cracker crumbles because it likes to lift. So I just recommend you do it at the end. And I'm just gonna sprinkle it on. Yes! So I'm taking these big chunks and just crushing them in my fingers and just sprinkling them onto the cake. So I'm gonna cover my cake and then I'll be back. Ta-da! It's so cool, you guys. But there you go. That is how you make a graveyard cake. High five, we did it! Thank you so much for coming today. I hope that you had fun. And if you would like to show me your beautifully spooky graveyard creations, 1, I love seeing everything that you guys do. 2, spooky season's my jam. Like, I'm so excited to see what you guys did because we're all doing the same kit. But in my world, cakes and cupcakes are just art that you can eat, and art is unique just like you are. So everybody puts their own little personal touches onto everything, and nothing ever looks the same, and I just think that is the coolest thing about all of this. So if you would like to share your pictures with me, you can go to our website, which is mymakestudio.com, click on the Chef Chayla tab, and there'll be an option to upload your photos, and you'll also become part of the Bakers Club and get a certificate from me. So if you would like to share them, that's how you do it. mymakestudio.com, Chef Chayla tab, option for pictures, and bam, you're part of the Bakers Club. If you don't want to share your cakes, that is totally okay. I'm so happy you are here, and either way, I hope that you had fun. And then, I mean, since I'm talking about the website, we might as well rush right into that segue. So, on our website, if you need a little bit more sweetness in your life, we have tons of other Halloween stuff. We have a Halloween unicorn, we have Halloween cupcakes. Oh my god, I blanked. We have a Halloween unicorn, we have Halloween cupcakes, we also have monster cupcakes and a monster cake. Or if you're like, I want to do something that's not Halloween, Miss Chayla, totally fine. We have more square cakes like this, like we've got a beach, or we have round ones, like we have geode. We also have flowers. There's all kinds of options on there. So if you need a little bit more decoration and sweetness in your life, feel free to check out on our website, mymakestudio.com, other options for decorating. And then if you want to follow any of our social medias, all of our social media is at mymakestudio. Our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are all at mymakestudio. Facebook and Instagram are good places to follow to see if we're coming to an area near you and maybe we can decorate in person. We do lots of pop-up events now. Or if we have new and upcoming things, those are good places to follow. And then our TikTok is just kind of me being weird. Like, you want to see how I did my hair or my makeup or what my dog is up to? And did I make muffins for breakfast today? That's what our TikTok is about. So again, all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are at mymakestudio. And lastly, you guys, again, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for coming today. I really do hope that you had fun, and I hope you enjoy eating your beautifully spooky graveyards. And as always, stay creative.